Started working night shift at a small gas station on the edge of town about 2 years ago. It was one of those places off the highway, surrounded by nothing but dark fields and occasional semi-trucks pulling in for fuel. The pay wasn't great, but it was easy. Stock shelves, ring up cigarettes and energy drinks, and try not to fall asleep watching the security monitor. Most nights were boring, just the hum of the fluorescent lights and the ding of the door when a tired driver came in. But then there was one night that changed everything. It was around 1 a.m., the dead hour, when even the crickets seemed to quiet down. I was behind the counter flipping through a magazine when the door chime went off. In walked this guy, mid-40s, scruffy beard, wearing a worn-out jacket that looked like it had seen better days. He didn't say hello, just nodded and wandered down the aisles. I kept an eye on him through the mirror, standard procedure for late-night customers. He grabbed the soda, some chips, and came to pay. "Quiet night?" he asked, his voice rough like he'd smoked a pack a day for decades. "Yeah, usual," I replied, while scanning his items. "That'll be $4.50. He paid in cash, exact change, and as I handed him the receipt, he leaned in a bit too close. "You ever get lonely out here all by yourself?" I shrugged it off. "Nah, I'm used to it." But something in his eyes made my skin crawl. A little too focused, like he was memorizing my face. He left, and I thought that was the end of it. But an hour later, the chime rang again. Same guy. This time he bought a pack of gum. "Forgot something," he muttered. He lingered at the counter, asking about the weather and how long I had worked here. I kept the answers short, but he wouldn't leave. Finally, he headed out. By 3 a.m., I was starting to feel uneasy. The gas station cameras covered the pumps and the inside, but the back lot was pitch black. I stepped out for a smoke break, locking the door behind me just in case. As I lit up, I heard footsteps crunching on the gravel from the shadows. I spun around, but no one was there. "Hello?" I called out, but nothing. Back inside, I checked the monitors. The outdoor camera showed a figure standing just out of the light, right at the edge of the lot. It was him. The same jacket, same build. He wasn't moving, just standing there, staring at the building. My heart was racing. I grabbed the phone to call the cops, but then he walked away, vanishing into the darkness. The rest of the shift dragged on. Every car that pulled up made me jump. At 4:30, another customer came in, a regular trucker. I mentioned the weird guy casually and laughed it off. Probably just a drifter. Happens all the time out here. My shift ended at 6 a.m. The sun started to rise. I locked up, got in my car, and drove home. But when I pulled into my driveway, something fell off. My front porch light was on. I always turn it off. On the doormat was a small bag of chips and a soda, the same brand the guy had bought. Taped to it was a note. "I thought you might get hungry. See you tomorrow." I called the police that morning. They patrolled the station for a few hours, but the guy never showed up again. I quit a week later. I couldn't shake the feeling he knew where I lived. To this day, I avoid night shift. I was a nurse aide at a small community hospital for 3 years, mostly on the third floor ward where they kept the elderly patients. Most nights were routine. Check vitals, hand out meds, listen to the occasional cough or snore. But one winter, something happened that still gives me chills. It was around 2 a.m. Snow was falling outside, making the world even quieter. The ward had 3 rooms, half occupied. I was doing my rounds when I heard a faint whispering from room 308. The patient in there was Mr. Jenkins, an 85-year-old with pneumonia. He was asleep when I checked earlier. I poked my head in, but he was there breathing steadily. It must have been the wind, I thought. An hour later, the whispering started again, this time from the end of the hall. It sounded like 2 voices murmuring low. They were arguing. I walked down, flashlight in hand. The overhead lights were off to let the patient sleep. The sound led me to the empty lounge area. No one there. But as I turned to leave, I saw a shadow move across the window. Tall, thin, like a person standing outside. The lounge was on the 3rd floor. No balcony, no ledge. I froze with my heart pounding. The whispering stopped. Back at the nurse's station, I told the charge nurse Sarah. She laughed it off. Old building, old pipes, happens all the time. But she looked uneasy too. We decided to check the security cameras together. The feed showed the hall clear, no shadows, no movements. But then on the lounge camera, there was a glitch. The screen flickered for a split second. 2 figures appeared in the chairs, heads close like they were talking, then they were gone. The rest of the shift was tense. Around 4 a.m., an alarm went off in room 310, an empty room. I went in. The bed was rumpled like someone had sat on it. The window was cracked open, cold air rushing in. I shut it, but as I did, I heard the whispering right behind me. "Leave us alone." I spun around. Nothing. I ran out, locked the door from the outside. Morning came and the day shift took over. I told them what happened. They chalked it up as fatigue, but later that week I learned the history from an old janitor. Years ago, the ward was a tuberculosis unit. 2 patients, a man and a woman, died there one night, whispering to each other until the end. Legends said they never left, always chatting in the dark. I requested day shift after that, but sometimes when I'm home alone at night, I hear faint voices outside my windows. I was a night security guard at a large self-storage facility. My job was simple. Drive the perimeter in a golf cart, check the gates, make sure no one was cutting locks or sleeping in their unit. The usual. One shift around 4 a.m. I noticed a car in the far corner lot. Unit 47. No one was supposed to be there overnight. I drove over, spotlight on the car. The car was empty. The engine was cold, but the driver's door was slightly open. I radioed it in, then got out to check, but no one was around. I locked the gate to that row and continued my patrol. The next night, the same car, same spot, and the door opened again. This time I walked closer. Inside was a folded blanket and a half-eaten sandwich and a notebook. The notebook had pages. Pages of the frick. The notebook had pages filled with dates and times, all recent and all around 4 a.m. The last entry said, "He's watching again. Won't leave." My stomach dropped. I took photos and I called the police. They said they'd check it out, but the car was gone by morning. The third night, I saw the car again. This time the interior light was on. As I approached, the driver's door slowly closed by itself. I stopped at 20 feet away. The windows were fogged, but I could see a silhouette in the driver's seat with the head turned towards me. I backed up, got in my car, and radioed for backup. By the time another guard arrived, the car was empty again, blanket and the notebook gone. After that, I started seeing the silhouette every few nights, always in the same row, always around 4 a.m., never close enough to make out details, just a dark shape watching me from inside a car. One night, I drove straight at it, lights on. The shape didn't move. When I got within 10 feet, the car's lights flashed once, bright, blinding, then nothing. Car gone, no tire tracks. I quit a month later. The facility still has issues. People report seeing a car in that row, always empty when approached. The last thing I heard from my replacement was he found a notebook in the glove box of his patrol car. The last page said, "I see you too."